Today I'm designing a necklace and I'm going to be using different shaped beads and different textures of beads to make it. And I'm taking you along for the ride, so let's get started. Hello my YouTube friends, it's lovely to see you again. If you're new here, my name's Carol and on this channel I show you how easy it is to make your own jewellery. Today I'm going to be playing with some different shaped beads and some different textures to make a necklace. In front of me I have my bead design board and I've got some different beads. Now I will leave links in the description box below for everything that you need to make the finished necklace. But let's just talk about what I've got here first. Firstly, obviously I've got my design board and this is a wonderful little invention. It has this channel around the outside and you can lay your beads in here and design as you go. Alright, as well as that, I've got some tools, I've got a pair of flush cutters, I've got 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, and I've got my magic crimping tool, and I'll show you how that works shortly. I've also got a bead stopper, and I've got some 0.38mm silver tiger tail. In terms of beads, these ones are some corrugated 3mm metal beads, silver beads, and hopefully you can see this, but they have a corrugated texture on the outside of them. I have some spring cage beads here. Now normally you would put a bead inside the middle of this, or often you would, but I'm not going to do that today, I don't think. I also have a barrel bead, and it's my intention to make a dangle in as a centerpiece of this necklace, so I'm going to use this large heart for that. I've also got a ball pin, I've got a couple of jump rings here, a clasp, I've got some magical crimp beads, and I've also got 3 different shapes of beads here. I've got some 6mm round hematite beads. These ones are magnetic, so they stick to everything, metal, which is just fantastic when you're trying to string them with metal, but that's okay. I've got some amethyst or dark amethyst coin beads here. And I've got some large 8mm bicones. Now you notice I've used quite dark colours. The glass heart is a gorgeous aubergine colour, and I wanted to reflect that in the beads. So I found these 2 beautiful silver-lined twist beads, and I think they go really well with the heart, so that's why I've chosen these. And you can see that the shapes are quite interesting there. As well as that, I have a curved metal tube. So lots of supplies I've got in front of me. Let's see how it all plays out. As well as that, I've got a piece of wire. This is 20 gauge wire, and I'm going to use that to make the dangle for the necklace. So I'm going to start by taking some tiger tail. And I want a reasonable size piece, probably about 60 centimetres. And I like to use a lot of extra when I'm stringing. That's way too much though. Just so that I have, I like to use extra so that I have lots of room to work with. Right, so that's about 60 centimetres. And I'm going to put my bead stopper on one end. And I'm actually thinking I might make my dangle first. So what I might do is move my board out of the way. I'm going to use my heart. I'm going to use my ball pin. And I think a cage bead as well. And a couple of these little round 3mm beads. So I think that's all I will need for now. I'll just pop that out of the way. I'll move that out of the way as well. And let's make this dangle. So I'm thinking that I will put the cage bead underneath the heart, just like that. And I might use the 3mm to accent that. Just trying to decide if I need another 3mm. I think I do. Do I? Yes, I think I'll put a 3mm top and bottom of the cage bead, and also one on top of the heart. So I'm going to use my ball pin, and now if I use this ball pin with this spring cage, it would go straight through. because the ball on the pin is not big enough to stop it going through. So that's why I'm going to put a 3mm bead there. So I'll thread that on first, and then I'm going to put on the cage bead like that, and I'm going to put on another one on the top, just like that. Now I think I might make a wire wrapped loop in the top of this. Oh, so I'll need my round nose pliers, and I didn't say that, did I? All right, so here's my round nose pliers that I will be using as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the pliers, my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to hold the wire right at the top there and bend it over the pliers so that it's at a 90-degree angle. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to tuck them inside that bend. Now if you haven't made a loop before, I will leave, this is a wire wrap loop, I will leave a link in the description box below for a video I did on it, on how to make them. So all I'm doing is wrapping my wire around the pliers there. Try and show you from all angles so that you can see. And then I'm going to loosen my grip on the pliers and bring it around so that it's now at the other jaw is at the top. And then I'm going to bring that wire right around. Now I'm actually going to pull it with my pliers because I didn't get it very close. So just want to pull it nice and tight around the jaws of the round nose pliers. So just going to remove those pliers now, and that's what I have. So now I'm going to hold the loop in the jaws of my chain nose pliers, and I want to hold it so that where the wire is crossing over, I hope you can see that, just there is where it's coming, where the pliers are. Now I'm going to take my other pair of chain nose pliers and take the end of this piece of wire, and I'm going to wrap it around and around to fill that space between the bead and the loop. Just twice. So that's what I have. And then I'm going to take my flush cutters, and I'm going to, using the flush side of my flush cutters, I'm going to cut off that excess. And now I'm going to take my pliers and just tuck in the end, just so that it's not sticking out. It's a bit bent, so I'll straighten it up. All right, so that's what I have now. Now I'm going to do something to attach it to this bead. Now this heart bead has the hole going up through the center, so I'm going to make a loop, and I'm going to do that. First of all, I'm going to just trim off the end of my wire here because it's not a flush cut, and so I'm using the flush side of my cutters closest to the piece I want to keep, just covering it with my fingers so it doesn't fly away. I'm going to cut. All right, so now I have a nice flat cut on my wire. Now if you haven't made it, that was a wire wrap loop, and I will leave a link in the video, link to a video I've done for that before, and this is going to be a simple basic loop, so I will leave a link in the description box for a video I've done on that one too. So what I'm doing is just taking the wire in the chain nose pliers about 1 centimetre from the top, and I've just made that right angle bend there. Now I'm going to take my pliers, my round nose pliers, and I'm going to put the wire in the jaws of the pliers so that it's not sticking up, so I can't feel it with my finger. Then I'm going to tuck my thumbnail into that bend and kind of push down and around as I go, taking the pliers out, putting them back in, and down and around again till I get a nice loop. It's not quite centered, so I'm just going to adjust again. All right, now I'm going to take that piece of wire and thread it up through the bead, and I'm going to pop on my little 3mm bead here. So I'm using the different textures here. This heart bead is very shiny and it has an AB finish, and the texture of the corrugated bead just is almost the opposite, so because it's more of a rough texture, so it adds interest, and that's why I'm doing it. All right, so now I need to make another loop at the top of this bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the wire at a right angle to the bead. The best way to do that is put my thumbnail on top of the bead and just bend the wire over my thumbnail like that. Then I'm going to trim this wire to 1 centimetre from the bend, using the flush side of my cutters closest to the part I want to keep, and holding the end so it doesn't fly away. Whoops, that's what I have now. And now I'm going to use my round nose pliers to make another loop. All right, now my loop is not centered, so I'm going to fix it. Okay, so there's my loop on the top and bottom. Now what I'm going to do is attach these two components together. So to do that, I'm going to open the loop on the bottom. So find the side that opens and just twist, hold it in the side of your pliers and twist down with your hand and feed on that little loop and just reverse it to close it up. So there we go, there's my dangle. One more thing I want to do, I am going to attach it to my barrel bead. So there's my barrel bead, and I'm going to use a jump ring to do that. This is a 6mm jump ring. So I'm going to take both of my chain nose pliers, hold the jump ring on either side, and if you haven't used jump rings before, I've done a video on that one as well, so I will leave that in the description box below. So feed on my barrel bead and feed on my lovely little dangle I've just made, and close up that jump ring. All right. So there it is with its barrel bead attached. Okay, so we're going to put that aside and we're going to bring back the beadboard. So I'm just going to put that there so I think about it being my centerpiece. Now what I'm going to do with this tube here is I'm actually going to feed it through the barrel bead. And I know it seems a little unusual to do that, but I kind of like the look of that. I also really like the look of the fact that this barrel bead has lots of texture and the tube doesn't have quite so much texture. It does have some texture because it's got these lovely little flowers engraved on it, but it is less texture than the barrel bead. So now what to do next is the question. Now, as I said, I've got some round beads and some coin beads and some bicones, and I've also got my spring cage beads, as well as these beautiful twist beads. Now, I think I'll put the twist beads in first, and I think they will go about 4 there. Now, obviously I need to fill this space, so I might use some spring cage beads. Because I really like the difference in the texture between the spring cage beads and the glass beads, but I don't want them banged up against each other. So I'm going to use some of the hematite beads between. I might put one there, and I might put one there. Now I'm actually thinking, I've got quite a few of these little 3mm beads. I'm thinking I might put one between the hematite and the spring cage. And as you can see, my hematite beads are sticking to everything because they're magnetic. And also between the hematite and the twist. So quite liking the look of that. What are your thoughts on that one? Next, I think I might repeat this, so I might go with another spring cage bead. But once again, I think I'll put some of the hematite between, and also some of the little 3mm beads as well. So I quite like, so basically what I've got is I've got a smooth bead, then I've got a textured 3mm, and then I've got my big textured element of the spring cage bead. Then I've got a 3mm texture again, and that kind of steps down between the smoothness of the round bead and the big amount of texture of the spring cage bead. So then I've got my smooth, I'm missing one here I think. There we go. And then I've got the texture and shape, different shape of the twist beads. Then the smooth, and then the big texture again. So I feel like that's a really good mix of the beads. But now I've got these two other beads, and I also have a whole necklace to finish. So I have to decide what to do next. I think I will go with one of the little 3mm, and then maybe another hematite and another 3mm. Then I think I might use these coin beads. And these are, even though they probably look black, they are actually in the same realm of colour as this dark amethyst. So they are quite purple indeed, in fact. Let's have a look, see if you can see that. Not really, can you? They look dark. They look black, but they're not. All right, now I'm going to put on another of the 3mm, and I think the pattern here is the 3mm beads go between everything else, so that's what's happening, so that's what we're going to live with. All right, and now I'm going to use more hematite. More of the 3mm, and also this time I'm going to use the bicones. So I'm thinking that what I might do is repeat this pattern. So go with the hematite and then the coins. And I think I'll repeat that all the way up to the top. Now that I've laid out my beads, I need to decide how long I would like my necklace. Now I want it reasonably short because it's got a fairly long dangle, so that's about 5 centimeters long. If I have my necklace at the same length as this one that I'm wearing, and I add 5 centimeters, it's actually going to finish all the way down here, and it's probably going to be too long. So I probably am looking at having it more as not a choker, but more at that level, so that my dangle finishes about here. So what I'm going to do is actually take off my necklace, and I'm going to measure it, because that seems like a good idea, and this one is slightly too long. So let's measure this against the one that I'm making. All right, so here's my necklace. And as you can see, this necklace measures about 19 centimeters on either side. And I said that was too long. So I am going to make this one shorter. So I'm actually thinking that I might finish it here at 18 and see how it looks. But I don't really want to finish it with the bicone. If I was to go with one more, would that work? These are all the decisions you need to make when you're making a necklace. Now, given that we have some space down here, I'm going to try that. I'm going to thread them on, and then I'm going to try and see if this is going to work for me. So I'm going to take my tiger tail, and I have my bead stopper on one end. If you haven't seen a bead stopper before, it's like a spring, and when you squeeze the handles, it opens up and you can put your tiger tail or whatever stringing material you're using inside, and it will not move. Just going to move my tools out of the way, and I'm going to start stringing these beads on. So I'm going to start with my 3mm here, and it couldn't be easier, just threading it onto the wire. And now I'm going to just thread all of these beads on, and I'll come back when that's done because you don't need to watch me doing that. Now I have all my beads strung on. I want to check that it's going to be the right length. So I have my beads all on there, and I'm going to hold it up to my neck. And now you need to remember that it will add about an inch for when you add your clasp. And I think that if I was to put my arm down, that is about the right length. Maybe it might be a little bit too long. So I'm going to take off actually one of each side, one bead off each side, or one run off each side, and we will have a look. So I'm going to just remove one of the hematite beads and one of the little 3mm beads on either side. And I know I said I didn't want it to finish with a bicone, but that just might have to be the case if I'm going to get it the right length, which is probably more important. All right, that's a bit better, I think. Like that much better. What do you think? Should I have left it on or should I take it off? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's finish this necklace. All right, so I have my necklace all strung and I've got my bead stopper on, holding both ends of my wire. Now what I'm going to do is put a clasp on one end, and I'm going to put a jump ring on the other for the clasp to go into. And I'm going to use some crimp beads to attach my clasp. So I'm just going to remove the wire, one piece of my tiger tail from my bead stopper, and I'm going to thread on one of my crimp beads. Now I like to fish for my crimp beads with the end of my wire rather than trying to pick it up and put the crimp bead on. So there's my crimp bead on. And I'm going to thread on my loop of my clasp here. Like that. And now I'm going to feed the wire, making sure the clasp is still inside the loop. I'm going to feed the wire back down through the crimp bead and through a couple of my beads. Now I'm pulling it up so that my crimp bead is quite close to my clasp, but not too close so that it can't still move. So I want a little bit of wire showing. Now I could use a wire guardian and to hide the wire if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that today. If you would like to know more about wire guardians, I will leave a link in the description box below for that one as well. So now this is a magic crimp bead, and basically it just means that it's a really uniform size, which often crimp beads aren't. So my magic crimping pliers, you can see they have a divot at the top there in the jaws. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tube of the crimp tube inside that divot. So just lining it up, making sure it's in the right place, inside there, and giving it a squeeze. So what I'm aiming to do is squeeze that crimp bead flat. So that's what I have now, and it doesn't look very attractive. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers again, and I'm going to twist the crimp bead around so that the tube is now up the other way, and I'm going to squeeze again and again until I get a really nice little ball that looks like another bead. And you can do this as many times as you need to. Sometimes with these crimp beads they're quite hard and I feel like I need to squeeze with both hands. Right, so there we go. That's what we're looking for. Right, now I'm going to run all the beads back. Now remember, I put the wire through those two beads. Now I'm going to trim off the end using my flush cutters. And then run all the beads back up to the other end. Just like that. Okay, the only other thing we have to do is put on a ring, a jump ring, so that the clasp has something to attach to. And we use the same technique of putting on the crimp bead. And threading the jump ring through. Now before I thread my jump ring through, I don't know if you can see that it's not quite closed properly, so I'm going to take both my pairs of chain nose pliers and I'm going to give it a little wiggle just to make sure it's closed properly, because the last thing I want is my jump ring coming off or my wire coming out of my jump ring. Okay, so now it's nicely closed. So thread it through, thread the tiger tail through, and just going back down through the crimp bead. Now, make sure that when you do this, that your jump ring is actually on the right side of your crimp bead, because otherwise you will miss it. So going through the crimp bead and through 2 beads. So what I'm wanting is my jump ring is up here in the loop. I'm just going to hold that gently and pull everything down. And if you can't pull it anymore, just move your crimp bead down towards your beads and they'll move. Same thing, I want to make sure that I can still move my jump ring around, that it's got plenty of room to move. And then I'm going to take my crimping pliers and just squeeze, turn and squeeze till I get that nice little ball. And one more for good luck. Okay. Now I'm just going to trim off the end. And there's my necklace. So one thing I love about this necklace is the different shapes and the different textures, which is why I wanted to show you and talk about it today. I love that I have used the silver, and it's really, really textured. It's high texture. And the hematite is so smooth. I love that the heart is really smooth and glossy, and that AB finish just makes everything look amazing. I also, and I didn't talk much about this when I was designing it, but I really love that these beads here are such different shapes and textures. So they're all smooth, but the bicone, the shape of the bicone gives it texture by default. And the shape of the coin bead is quite unusual in this run as well. So I really like the different shapes and textures here. So there you go. There is my necklace all finished. And actually, I'm going to put it on because I know you want to see it on, right? So here's the necklace on, and I think I made the right choice in removing those 2 beads. I think those 2 runs of beads, I think if I had left it longer, I think it would have interfered with my neckline of my top. As well, I just think it wouldn't sit so nicely. So let me know in the comment section below, do you think I should have left it longer, or did I make the right choice in removing those beads? Let me know. If you've enjoyed this video, it would be really great if you would subscribe to my channel and of course like the video and ring the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. That way you'll never miss a thing. Also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. If you're interested in making the earrings I'm wearing today, I've got a tutorial on those, so I will leave a link in the description box, as well as the necklace I had on before. I made that as well, so I'll leave those links and links to everything that you need to make this necklace. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you again soon.